In founding the Knights of Columbus, Father Michael J. McGivney established a brotherhood of men who would help bring the light of faith to their families, our love of God, witnesses to a faith built on love. This is the faith that lights our path. And so I am pleased to announce the theme of our 134th Supreme Convention, A Light to the Nations.
In August 2016, the Knights of Columbus held its 134th Supreme Convention in Toronto, Canada. In attendance were Brother Knights and delegates representing all 50 United States and every province in Canada, as well as Mexico, the Philippines, Cuba, Poland, Ukraine, Lithuania, and South Korea, and for the first time, France.
As we meet in Canada, we recall that this country was the first to which the Knights of Columbus expanded, just 15 years after our founding in New Haven. Canada has been key to both our order's expansion and to our faithful witness.
The Knights of Columbus plays an extremely important role here in Canada. The Knights are always there to help those in need and to support the work of the parish in evangelization. They're a great blessing on the church.
The Knights are just the muscle. They're just on the front lines of the church. I love them. I appreciate them. And to be here at the Supreme Convention of the Knights of Columbus reminds me, now they're an icon of the Church Universal. It's magic.
Cardinal Thomas Collins of Toronto celebrated the opening Mass with 11 cardinals and more than 90 archbishops and bishops from around the world.
We need to address courageously, with clarity and charity, the challenges of our secular world. The Knights of Columbus has a noble tradition of support for the family, upon we must constantly build. Our order is an anchor of strength in a stormy world, because our eyes are fixed on Jesus.
Pope Francis sent an official greeting urging the Knights to bring Christ's light to the world.
Especially close to the Holy Father's heart in these days are the afflictions of our brothers and sisters in Christ throughout the world, suffering from poverty, injustice, exile, and increasingly violent persecution. He once more thanks the Knights for the strenuous efforts being made to defend their human rights and to provide for their needs.
Pope Francis has said, to love God and neighbor is not something abstract, but something profoundly concrete. It means seeing in every person the face of the Lord to be served and to serve Him concretely. My brother Knights, we continue to be a stellar example of just such concrete service to our neighbor.
For the 17th consecutive year, the Order set new records for charitable donations and volunteer hours around the globe. Knights increased their support for people with intellectual and physical disabilities, staffing more than 23,000 Special Olympic events.
We're proud to be a part of Special Olympics just because it's such a great movement. And that's really what the Knights of Columbus is about, is helping people to be the best that they can be.
I love being part of the Knights because it gives me a sense of feeling accepted.
Again this year, the Indiana State Council, together with Special Olympics Indiana, sponsored a mini football combine for Special Olympics athletes.
Getting to see all the athletes out here today, having fun, playing football, scoring touchdowns, giving each other high fives, smiles on everybody's face out there, that's what it's all about.
The Order's commitment to providing the gift of mobility increased with a distribution of 8,000 wheelchairs across the globe.
About 100 million people around the world need wheelchairs and cannot afford them. And the Knights of Columbus have taken this program especially to heart.
Brother Knights continued their steadfast support for local blood drives.
When Pierce was 6 months old, we got the diagnosis of leukemia. When he needed transfusions, the blood was there for him. The Knights of Columbus, they say to their members, we need to do this. Let's make this part of who we are. It just makes such a huge difference.
The light of charity shines particularly bright in the Order's Food for Families and Coats for Kids programs. Last year, more than 80,000 new winter coats were distributed.
Coats for Kids really is the kind of program that brings about healing and renewal for a community.
In Africa, the Knights continued support of AIDS orphans through the Apostles of Jesus and working with Charity Water. Knights are also helping build 20 new clean water wells.
In 2015, we donated more than $175 million, an increase of more than $1.5 million over last year. Our volunteer hours added up to a record 73.5 million hours. Our charity is a light to the nations. Our charity is motivated by faith, and our faith is a gift to be shared. When we bring new men into the order, they multiply the good works that we can do. And I am pleased to report that our membership grew for the 44th consecutive year to a record high of 1,918,122.
Membership in the Knights of Columbus offers men the opportunity to become better husbands and fathers. The Order has begun a series of important initiatives to bring Christ's love and vitality into family life. More than 1.3 million people have participated in the new Holy Family Prayer Program.
Last November, we announced another new initiative, Building the Domestic Church through Strengthening Our Parish. It combines two great traditions of the Knights of Columbus, building up Catholic family life and strengthening parish life. With our thousands of parish-based councils, it is time that the Knights of Columbus step up and be the dynamic engine within the parish to support family life and help ensure the future of our parishes. Today, this is what it means to be a light to the nations.
Young people light up family life and are at the heart of the Order's fraternal care. Last year, Knights gave $19 million and thousands of hours to youth programs. Another source of encouragement, continued growth from the College Council program, now present on 348 campuses around the world.
The slogan for College Knights is that they are leaders for life.
Being a Knight of Columbus has given me the opportunity to interact with a lot of great men with very similar values.
The Knights is so unique and it can be so appealing. It's just that call to grow closer in Christ. There's such a higher meaning.
For some guys, they appreciate the social aspect or the service aspect of the Knights of Columbus. So really, the Knights of Columbus can be all things to all people. I would say, why wouldn't you want to join?
30 years ago, St. John Paul II founded World Youth Day. This year, World Youth Day was held in his hometown of Krakow. And as in other World Youth Days, we took an active role. We sponsored, this year, the Mercy Center, the premier location for the English-speaking pilgrims from around the world. More than 100,000 pilgrims benefited from the programs and speakers at our site.
It was our thought that we would provide a place for the pilgrims to come to begin to ask those same questions and seek answers in the same way that a young Karol Wojtyla, who was their age, did here on the streets of Krakow.
Jesus, you're my hope and stay.
May all of you, filled with the wonderful enthusiasm of this moment, seeing everybody, hearing the singing, seeing the martyrs of the 20th century, don't rest in it, but go forth to transform the world.
At World Youth Day, we help to build a brighter future for our church. But there are other Christians who some have said must have no future. In Iraq, Syria, and neighboring countries, Christians and other religious minorities are facing extinction. Many receive no support from their governments or from the United Nations. Since 2014, we have raised more than $11 million for Christian refugees, and that money has been a lifeline.
It comes from my heart. I would like to thank you again, Supreme Knight, your assistants, and my brother cardinals, bishops, who have opened their heart to invite us and to try to find a way to help us in our tragic situation, and especially to help us resist the temptation of leaving the land of our forefathers.
The Knights of Columbus are the single most significant lay voice in defense of persecuted Christians around the world. That's a great spiritual gift to the whole church.
The Supreme Knight reported how the Order acted boldly this year, successfully campaigning for the U.S. Congress to declare what is happening to Christians in the Middle East as genocide.
The Knights of Columbus was credited by people from the Speaker of the House of Representatives to senior officials at the State Department for being decisive in this successful effort. My brother Knights, we made history. However, this is only just the beginning. We will continue our work to ensure that the Christians who still speak the language of Jesus and whose ancestors baptized St. Paul will survive.
During Pope Francis's 2015 visit to the United States, more than 1,000 Knights served as volunteers at papal events, and the Order was a major financial sponsor for the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia. The Order was also present and active during the Pope's historic trip to Mexico, joining him at Mass at the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City.
In December, Archbishop Lori and I had the honor of a private audience with Pope Francis. At that time, we discussed with him our programs to support family life and heard him encourage us to continue such practical initiatives. During our meeting with him, we presented him with a contribution of $1.6 million from our Vicarious Christi Fund.
This year, the Knights paid special tribute to John Paul II with Liberating a Continent, John Paul II and the Fall of Communism, a new documentary film distributed nationally through PBS. The film celebrated his pivotal role in the collapse of communism, and the Order furthered its landmark initiative to show the bright light of his life at the St. John Paul II National Shrine in Washington, D.C., where the church and chapel altars were consecrated last year.
Our ultrasound program gives a light to the mother that enables her to see the reality and even the personality of her child in the womb. And I am proud to announce that last month we donated our 700th ultrasound machine. My brother Knights, we are changing hearts and minds. We are making a difference. And every time we save a life, we change history.
Knights and their families are among the most visible supporters at Marches for Life around the globe. The Marist poll, commissioned by the Knights, continues to show that the majority of Americans and Canadians agree and want restrictions on abortion.
Being a light to the nations begins with being a light to our own nation. We do this by being faithful Catholic citizens. Faithful Catholics can build a new politics that is not satisfied with the status quo, but one that is dedicated to building up a new culture of life. We need to end the political manipulation of Catholic voters by abortion advocates. We will never succeed in building a culture of life if we continue to vote for politicians who support a culture of death. In a world that has forgotten that love is the vocation of every person. We witness to that vocation, not just with words, but with actions.
Countless acts of love in the public square carried out each year by Sir Knights who show love and respect for their communities and nations, and also the men and women who defend them. Last year, 6,157 Knights joined the Fourth Degree, bringing membership to a record of 353,334. Fourth Degree Knights continued their long history of bringing the light of charity to veterans and active personnel at VA hospitals and military installations around the globe. Working with the Archdiocese of the Military Services, the Order also provided scholarships for future military chaplains, offered assistance with spiritual formation, and sponsored more than 200 wounded troops and veterans, family members, and chaplains on the annual pilgrimage to Lourdes. Knights continued to partner with the Gary Sinise Foundation to build computer-equipped custom smart homes for wounded veterans, including one for Army Captain Luis Avila and his family. At the heart of the Order's concrete care for each small domestic church are the insurance programs that secure the family's financial future. Last year, the insurance program achieved its 15th consecutive year of growth, with an historic milestone.
$100 billion of life insurance in force means an unprecedented level of protection for our Catholic families.
The Knights ranked number 925 in the Fortune 1000 list of America's companies last year, and its sound investment practices based on gospel values continues to be a providential way of doing business for the Order. Healthy yields were reinvested, providing churches and schools with construction financing through the Church Loan Program. Again last year, the Order was recognized by the Ethisphere Institute as a 2016 World's Most Ethical Company, one of only 131 companies honored worldwide.
We strive to have an insurance program that is different. We put people before profits. And this is what we mean when we say insurance by Brother Knights, for Brother Knights. These words are not just a slogan, they are a promise. And it is a promise that makes the Knights of Columbus different.
On Tuesday evening, more than 2,000 Knights, delegates, their families, and guests celebrated together another banner year for the Order at the always festive States Dinner.
It's the camaraderie, the fellowship, the time we spend together, not only as Brother Knights, but with our families. And I think that's what makes these conventions so unique and so wonderful.
The Order was privileged to bestow its highest honor, the Gaudium et Spes Award, on the Little Sisters of the Poor for their heroic stand against government restrictions that sought to force them to sign a form that would have triggered contraception, sterilization, and abortifacient coverage in their employees' health plan.
We're just very humbled and honored to be given this award. You know, we really didn't seek the limelight through this lawsuit, but we've stood up for the believers and stood up for religious liberty.
These sisters could no more comply with coercive government mandates than could they abandon the poor, the elderly, and the dying. They have persevered through many court battles, all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Throughout each stage of our journey to the Supreme Court, we have come to know many wonderful, courageous, and edifying people whom we would have never known otherwise or encountered, and through whom we have recognized the mysterious workings of God's loving providence. We thank you for the part you have played in enabling us to continue our mission of mercy to the elderly.
Keynote speaker Cardinal Ouellet offered his witness of working closely with Pope Francis in Rome.
As a Jesuit superior, Pope Francis was involved in forming spiritual men for our time. Now, as Vicar of Christ, he is forming the entire Church in deeper charity, humility, mercy, and prayer. No change of the doctrine is proposed, but what is proposed is a new pastoral approach, more patient and respectful, more dialogical and merciful.
On Wednesday, Cardinal Gerald Lacroix of Quebec celebrated a special votive Mass to highlight the Holy Year of Mercy. Cardinal Wuerl delivered an inspiring homily on the importance of carrying out the new evangelization.
One way we can share our faith is to share that same monthly magazine, Columbia. I have found one way that I can make that an instrument of evangelization is after I've read it, I pass it on to some college student. That magazine serves two purposes: to enlighten them on what we believe, and it's also an invitation.
At the annual awards session, the Supreme Council recognized the exceptional achievements of Knights being the light of the world. The 2016 International Family of the Year Award was presented to the Nowak family from Lebanon, Oregon. During the final business session of the convention, delegates adopted resolutions in defense of religious liberty, in solidarity with persecuted Christians, in support of a culture of marriage, in support of the Hyde Amendment and the culture of life, honoring the armed forces and a commitment to patriotism, for national healing and reconciliation, and honoring Mother Teresa on the occasion of her September 2016 canonization.
You walk into this huge ballroom in the heart of Toronto. Ballrooms usually aren't thought to be holy places. They transform that ballroom into a sacred space, into a place of worship, into almost a basilica. And I thought to myself, that's what the Knights of Columbus do all the time. They transform families, places of business, the public square. They bring the message of Jesus Christ, they bring His grace and mercy and infuse those public areas with that grace. And that's their job. And they do it magnificently.
My brother Knights, we are coming to the end of the Holy Year of Mercy. Although much has been written about mercy during this year, I will tell you this: there can be no mercy without charity. There can be no mercy without unity. There can be no mercy without fraternal brotherhood. And this reality places a special responsibility upon the Knights of Columbus. The prophetic flame of which Pope Francis speaks continues to burn bright in the hearts of our brother Knights around the world. That flame enkindles in them a true sense of Catholic charity, a charity that evangelizes and brings in very concrete ways a light to the nations. Yes, it is the hour of the laity. It is the hour of the Knights of Columbus. Vivat Jesus!